Hey, it's Editing John. You remember me from the many, many times I've made mistakes in the past. The audio on this is bad. It's not good. Ladies, gentlemen, it's rough. I'm sorry. I can't re-record because I don't have time, so I'm just gonna let it run, but I'm so sorry. I love you. I got new glasses. That's exciting. I know it's not related to the movie, but it's exciting. My old ones broke. I'll show you. They used to they do that. So I used to have to kind of put them up like here, or they'd look like this, which I assume you guys didn't notice, unless you did notice. Unless you did notice and didn't say anything. Hey, what's up? My name is John Bonjour. I'm an artist and a film enthusiast. I have drawn some art and I want to enthuse about some film. Today we are talking about Silent Night. This is John Woo's latest movie of Hard-Boiled and Mission Impossible 2 fame. Before we dive into some spoilers, which I am going to get into just because I want to, I got stuff to talk about, my general thoughts, this is a movie that I really like quite a bit of it. I think it's really solid and it's worth seeing. It's a good action movie, but it kind of doesn't know what movie it wants to be. So it's sometimes this super hard-hitting drama, and then sometimes it's kind of a goofy, surrealist action movie, and they don't really blend. So I like both of those things, but they don't really come together at any point. It just sort of is this or is this. So yeah, it's good. It's good. I like it. But it's weird. It's a weird experience. Also, if there's still debate going on whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie, there's going to be riots in the streets on this one. It was marketed super strong as this fun Christmas action movie. Barely. It's there. There's a couple of Christmas songs, and at one point he is wearing a sweater. But my impression going into this was that it was going to be a lot more Christmassy than it was, and it is not. I'm going to dive into some spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it and then come back, or just watch this if you don't care. I don't care. If you don't care, I don't care. I'm going to start with the good, I think, because there's a lot less to say about that, but like I said, I'll sort of preface for all of this. I really like this movie. I think it's very solid. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's solid. Anyway, the good. The action sequences are super solid. Really, really exciting. It's John Woo, right? It's a John Woo movie. He can make a good action sequence. We know this. We know the guy knows how to shoot a gunfight, and boy, howdy does he. Especially the kind of long take action sequences where, obviously there's scenes, but it feels like a one shot. There's one where he's going up the stairs in this building. Really solid. It doesn't feel like anything we haven't seen before, but it's just very well executed, so it's entertaining. It might not be groundbreaking, but that's okay. It's just solid action, and I think when you care about the character, the action works. Speaking of another great thing in this movie, the character work is really, really solid for the most part. There's a couple of things. But when we get into that drama of normally you kind of expect these movies to go, guy's wife and kid dies, he goes on a rampage. The thing that I think makes this stand out is the drama of having the wife not die. I thought that was tremendous. That is such an interesting angle to take this at, and then seeing her try to just love him and try to care about him and try to bring him back, and then realize that she really can't. There's nothing she can do, and then leave. Honestly, that was one of my favorite parts of the movie, is seeing him process this and watching her process this and seeing how they just miss each other. I think it's really solid. It kind of feels like if John Wick was real on some level, which feels crazy to say. That's what I'm talking about. That element of this movie is so grounded that it feels like a real story. It really, it feels like human characters in a way that I was not prepared for. This is an emotionally heavy film, and that's a huge positive. It makes you care so deeply about these characters, and especially our kind of main guy. It makes you care so deeply about him that by the end of the movie, you're rooting for him, but you've seen his flaws. You see he's a well-rounded character. He's a broken man, and he will even acknowledge that right at the end. I also appreciate that he goes through a very extensive training montage. Training. He watches a bunch of YouTube videos and stabs things with knives. But I appreciate that they showed all of that. They gave us this long montage of him improving his skills throughout this year, and then the first fight, he just gets his ass handed to him. I think that's great. I love that this movie didn't just turn him from regular guy to perfect fighting killer guy. I appreciate the realism behind him getting the wind knocked out of him all the time and falling down the stairs. All these things that bring more humanity to this character, which is harder to watch because it reminds you that this is like a human being who's killing other human beings, but also way more interesting to watch for this kind of story than if he were just like perfect killing machine right from the go. Obviously, I have nothing against the John Wick movies or any of those movies that are like perfect killing machine, but those stories are about that kind of character. This is a story that's about just a dad, and then he goes into his garage and learns to kill people, which this handled in a way that felt very real. And then on the other side of things, I think the things that don't really feel super real, there's some very surrealist like imagery. There's some times where he'll see his son kind of reflected in like a bulb or like an ornament or something like that. Or, like there's a lot of that kind of stuff that I think really works. It just doesn't really like work in connection with the other thing. Obviously, there's another side to this movie where he's like eventually becomes this killing machine. I mean, it's an action movie. He's going through just guy after guy, and like he takes a lot of bullets and he just keeps getting back up. I understand that he has like a bulletproof vest, but there is an amount of bullets that you are hit by with a bulletproof vest where you stop being able to just get back up and keep on trucking. But when the movie does have him do that, it plays into the kind of heightened sense of reality, and so it feels you feel his pain, you feel his motivation to do this. It's just expressed in a very different way than the other kind of action scenes are. On a technical level, another thing that I just greatly appreciate is this is shot really well and just interestingly. It's shot in an engaging way. A perfect example of this, a thing that could have totally been just shot, reverse shot, reverse shot. There's a bit where he sees the main kind of head gang and he has like a knife and he's ready to go get him, but then he stops for whatever reason, kids, I think. But I love that we didn't get shots of just like his face, the gang guy's face, his face, the gang guy's face, the knife. I appreciate that it was a long take. It goes from his face, pans over to the guy's face, pans back to him, down around the knife. Like it's just like a movie that was thought about, which seems like not a high bar, but apparently it is for several movies. This isn't just like basic get the shot filmmaking. This feels like everything was thought about and everything is intentional, which I think is really good and lends itself to a lot of really good things. But it also, I'm going to put all my cards on the table. John Woo is not my favorite filmmaker. I like a lot of the things that he does. I appreciate how stylistic his movies are. And maybe if I gave more time to it and kind of lived in his world for a little bit longer, I would appreciate it more. But what I've seen, a lot of the style feels kind of unnecessary. And that really is just a personal preference thing. There's probably someone who will defend every shot of this movie, but there are just so many random quick zooms into somebody's eye, or like weird shots where it lasts a little bit too long and you can't quite feel like the pacing isn't quite right moment to moment. There's a lot of things where it's like, I know that these were intentional, very clear decisions, and for the mass majority, they work for me. Like a lot of them, almost all of them work. But every once in a while, something will happen, like a little shot, and it just really pulls me out of it. I'm not even saying that's an actual criticism of the movie. I'm just saying that I as a personal interest level, John Woo's kind of choices are a little hit or miss for me. But like I said, a lot of this movie works. The majority of the movie works. The things that don't, though, I guess we're going to get into those, some of the negatives. There's things about this that are just, they irk me a little bit. They frustrate me. The main thing, the biggest thing, the thing that I could not take my mind off of, the whole point is that this guy's kid died by a stray bullet from people driving around and shooting at cars. And then his plan, his whole year-long plan is to drive around the city and shoot a bunch of cars, which to me feels like it would be the one thing you'd want to avoid. Like there is a long segment of very well crafted car chases and interesting car fight kind of things. Very incredibly well crafted, super engaging. But the only thought that I had was like, isn't this the thing that got him here in the first place? And I think there's an argument to be made for it being some kind of cosmic poetry kind of thing, like an irony of, oh, he's so lost in his vengeance that he doesn't even think about that he's doing the same thing. But the movie doesn't make that point. I had to think that point, The movie does not kind of lead you to that. It doesn't even passingly wave at the idea of like, oh, this is bad or shouldn't be happening. It's just like, isn't this so badass? Isn't this so cool to watch and look at? And I'm over here like, it is. But probably that's what the gang people were thinking at the beginning of the movie, no? Like, one time it's bad and one time it's good. I guess because there's collateral damage, but it's like, to me, what I thought we were leading to was he's been practicing in this abandoned parking lot for a long time. He's been practicing driving. I thought he was going to kind of lure all the cars there, and then it would be like home territory, and then he would be able to, take them out there. But no, he just drives through the street, just through the regular street. We see people that aren't a part of this, and it just doesn't matter. I also do kind of reach a point with this character, with this story, where I have to suspend my disbelief, which is not a bad thing. I do that quite a bit. I like superhero movies a lot. Obviously, I have no problem with suspending my disbelief. But the problem is, superhero movies, from the get, they go, hey, suspend your disbelief. This guy's going to fly. He's going to get an alien suit. This guy can build a robot suit that flies. All of that, there is an expected level of, hey, this is not your world, kind of experience this, and this is what we're trying to show. The problem is that this movie doesn't do that. This movie starts, and for the first, I would say, 3/4 probably of the movie, it is trying to be as realistic as it can possibly be. His first fight, he gets stabbed, he gets kicked, like it goes wrong, things are happening. It is like a fight. It's two guys who are just trying to survive. His emotional arc with his wife is really, like I said, super realistic. It feels like somebody was telling all of this in a therapy session in a good way. His grief feels real. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's a little lower, sometimes it's higher. Like, it hits him out of nowhere. He gets a little delirious. The whole first 3/4 of the movie are trying to convince you, hey, this is a real story about a real guy. Believe it. And then the last quarter is like, but don't believe that too much. I mean, he's going to get shot 112 times, it seems like. The final villain, I kid you not, he shoots him like 12 times, which is a lot of times to be shot, even if you're as committed as a human being can be. And again, this is not a problem that I would have if the movie would kind of lead me to believe that this was the kind of story they were telling. But when it comes out of nowhere, out of left field, it was jarring. Like, I could buy into it. I eventually bought into it, and the end of the movie kind of rolled pretty well. But I really had to get over that hump, and I think that is a problem that this movie faces, is it wants to be both incredibly realistic and incredibly heightened, fun, action, shoot 'em up kind of movie. And they don't really work together. This is just like a personal grievance, quite honestly, more than anything else. I wish it were more Christmassy, which, I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's fair. I don't know if that's a fair criticism to kind of level at the movie, because it's what it's wanted to be. That's me coming in with my expectations and wanting it to be something that it isn't, which I am staunchly against as a general rule, and quite honestly staunchly against in this exact moment. But that doesn't stop my brain from wanting him to be like wearing a Christmas sweater when he goes and kills them. I wouldn't have minded a little more goofiness. Like, it could still keep that mostly realistic tone, but if he wore this blood-soaked sweater, I don't know. Call me a romantic, but I like it when people are a little bit tongue-in-cheek about the way they kill their enemies. I'm not saying that that's like a problem with this movie. It's just a thing that I personally wish would have happened. Not my movie, though. I didn't make the movie. John Woo made the movie. And for that, John Woo made a good movie. That's where I'm leaving this. At the end of the day, I've got things that I think don't make sense, and I've had things that I'm like, I'm not sure I would have done that way. Great. I didn't make the movie. Oh, one more thing. This is going to be a nightmare to edit because I totally forgot to put this in. Both a good and a bad thing. The whole gimmick is that there's no dialogue, or almost no dialogue, in this movie. Most of the time, I think that works really well. There's definitely a couple of scenes where the movie is pulling real hard against its gimmick, and like, there are scenes where I'm like, not him because he can't, but like other characters would have said words, because that's how humans work. We say words to people. I don't know. Like, to me, the scene where he goes back to his home after the hospital and is grieving his son's loss, and his wife is also grieving her son's loss, and like the current husband's loss, and like all of that I think would have played stronger and more striking if she was just constantly talking because that was the only thing she knew how to do, and he couldn't talk because he couldn't talk, that would have been a way more interesting tension than him just like kind of staring at her and her just kind of staring at him, and then he grabs a bottle and she just stares at him. Like, I don't know. It felt awkward in quite a few scenes where I just sensed this, like, people would be saying words to people and they're just not for the sake of the gimmick. Anyway, I like this movie a lot. Silent Night is a solid action thriller. It works on a lot of levels and then sometimes loses its way, and it takes a little bit to get where it wants to go, and there's issues, there's flaws with the movie. But I think at the end of the day, it's a really solid action movie, and I do recommend it. I don't know that I would go to the theater for it necessarily, but I think if it shows up on Netflix or something, or if like the Blu-ray's on sale, I think it's worth checking out. Thank you for watching this video and checking out my channel. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on movies, comics, TV shows, Christmas, other holidays like President's Day or whatever we're calling Columbus Day now, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and comment down below what you'd like me to review next. Or do none of those things because I am not your dad.